You preparing for marriage or a newlywed, and you want to know what the most common mistakes are that couples make at the beginning of their marriage and how you can free yourself from them? Join me as I share the 5 biggest mistakes I see couples make and how you can avoid them. Let's talk about the 5 biggest mistakes I see couples make at the beginning of their marriage that set them up for a tension-filled marriage and lead to despairing disconnection. At the same time, I'll be sharing with you how you can avoid them and instead experience freedom. So let's jump in. The number 1 mistake I see couples making early in their relationship is not negotiating how they will run their life. You are setting the foundations of how everything will be set up for the rest of your lives. Everything needs to be negotiated, and I mean everything. Like who will do what in the household? How often will that change? When will you know it's time to change what you currently negotiated as the way you're doing things? Does someone have a lead role in areas where they may have strengths like finances, caring for the automobiles, caring for the lawn, or cooking? How do you want to spend your evenings together? How do you want to spend your weekends together? Who gets to figure that out? How do you want to spend, save, and invest your money? Where do you want to put the things in the house that you use every day? Things like the scissors. On and on the list of things go that most couples just do without thinking or talking about it. The problem is you're thinking about it subconsciously, and it creates distrust and can create a power struggle in the marriage. Most importantly, it creates bitterness and resentment as we secretly get frustrated with how things are and don't often stop to think about we are the ones that set them up that way. If you want to avoid making this mistake, take a week in your day-to-day life, and each of you make a list of everything you do. Categorize them into like activities, and then compile your list. Each of these things you do in a given week will now be done as a couple. You're moving from doing it individually or doing it with people that you've gotten comfortable doing it with in the past, and now you're moving into doing it together on a daily basis as a couple. Negotiate how you want to handle them. How will you do that? Will you trade off? How will you keep negotiating these things as your life changes? Also add things that may not happen every week, like holiday responsibilities, vacations, or tax planning. Do you want things to look different in different seasons of the year? Once you do that, once you have that list and you've talked through things, you're going to find there's a lot more conversations you need to have, but you've got a really good foundation of having intentional conversations and negotiating how you both want things done in your day-to-day household as you live and function together. The second biggest pitfall I see couples fall into early in their marriage is not developing open and honest communication, especially when you disagree. Growing your ability to have open and honest conversations about anything and everything, no matter how difficult the topic, is vital to a thriving lifetime marriage. What most often happens in couples is they find it pretty easy to have open and honest communication in the dating and engagement phase. But then when challenges in life start getting bigger and life starts getting more challenging as responsibilities increase, it gets easier to start hiding your upset or deciding not to say anything because you don't have the energy right now for a difficult conversation. Over time, more things go unspoken and little offenses begin to add up and turn into bitterness and resentment. Before long, you feel like you're walking on eggshells around each other because there is so many tension-filled topics, you're tiptoeing around them. From there, you find yourself limited to talking about the weather and the basics of your schedule. If you want to avoid this massive mistake, you will need to learn to have open and honest conversations in ways that keep up leveling your skills at having these kind of conversations without, getting in huge fights that take days to resolve. I invite you to look at it like working out. If you are focused on growing your muscles, you intentionally work out to get sore. You push your muscles further than you have before because you know it is what will help you grow bigger muscles. Growing your ability to have open and honest conversations is no different. You need to push yourself further each week. What can you talk about this week that's more uncomfortable and honest than you did the week before? How do you learn new abilities to resolve your differences or talking through what's uncomfortable? No matter how busy life gets, how can you cultivate a non-negotiable weekly time for open and honest conversations so you can talk about things when they're small rather than when they're all infected and irritated and full of bitterness and resentment? If you set a weekly non-negotiable time and commit to bold honesty for the purpose of being able to talk through any conversation, no matter how difficult, to establish deeper connection, you can avoid this common mistake and extremely damaging one. The third mistake I see couples make early on is letting family and friends come between you. You two are becoming one. You are deciding what works and figuring out what works for you and what doesn't. You're deciding what the two of you want and need. And you will have a lot of outside voices trying to tell you what is right for the two of you and what you need to do. While they likely mean well, you can become a village with too many chiefs. I have watched family members and friends literally destroy a marriage as spouses get different opinions and demands from different people, and then the couple starts fighting. The two of you are establishing your union, and while it is helpful to get other people's perspectives, ultimately the two of you are 100% responsible for deciding what you want and need together. That means you'll need to set some boundaries to protect the two of you and create the space to talk and decide what you're going to choose. For example, let's say each of your families has extensive holiday traditions and you both feel torn between trying to keep both families happy and also, the grieving you feel as you leave your normal family traditions and start to create your own. You find yourself dreading the holidays because you go, trying to keep both your moms happy. You feel like the two of you get the crumbs and you start taking your frustrations out on each other. This is one example of where you need to set boundaries. You need to decide what the two of you want and need to create your holiday celebrations. And from there, you can decide how you want to celebrate with each of your families. If you do not carve out what the two of you need, you will spend your lives dreading the holidays and complaining about extended families. If you want to avoid this mistake, I invite you to talk to each other about what you want for your unit to look like. And this is in every area. I use the holidays as an example, but this is any area where family or friends is trying to tell you how things should be. Like, how can the two of you be a united force to decide what you want and need in your life, while letting your friends and family's perspectives be something you consider? Ultimately, you take responsibility for what the two of you decide together. Write down the areas in your life where you feel extended family and friends are trying to have a strong voice. Talk about how you can own what you want and need as a couple, and then carry out your desires with friends and family from there. The fourth common mistake I see couples make early on is they stop the fun and play. You've fallen in love through playing and having fun together. A common mistake I see couples make is they look at dating as the season where they have fun and play. And then once they get married, life gets a little more boring. It's like couples feel like they invested so much time and energy into planning the wedding and enjoying their honeymoon that once it's over, they have to get back to real life. They want to work more and make more money to accomplish their dreams. And before they know it, they are each going after their next promotion at work and they barely see one another. Then they upgrade their house, which means they need to work harder to pay for everything. And then it's time to fill the house with kids, which creates a whole new level of demands and responsibilities. Date night becomes a box they check off, if they do it at all, as it's the easiest to go to, and then it becomes the easiest to go to the same restaurant they know they like each week and spend their time on their phones and making small talk over the same meal they eat week after week. If you want to avoid this mundane, boring, and draining despair of fun and play in your marriage disappearing, here is what I invite you to. As much as you prioritize a weekly time to have open and honest conversation, do the same with weekly time to play and have fun. It doesn't need to be long. 30 minutes can make a huge difference, and you don't need a babysitter. You don't even need to leave your house. I invite you to take turns leading this playtime. Whoever is leading playtime is working to create a level 10 connection for both of you during the playtime. If each of you works weekly to cultivate connection through fun and play, you will keep the joy and laughter in your marriage alive. The fifth and final mistake we're covering today that I see couples make early on in their marriage is thinking you're supposed to agree on everything. It's easy to think that because you love each other and are building a life together, you're supposed to think and feel the same way about things. Like you should both want the same things, or you should see things the same way, or you should have the same idea about how to do things. This leads to headbutting and long and drawn out conversations where you will each be positioned in what it is that you think is right while you work to get your spouse to see it your way. If you are like my husband and I, you will be up until 2 or 3 in the morning trying to get your spouse to agree with what you want. Think about it. Opposites attract. If you agree on everything, you wouldn't have been attracted to each other. You would have found yourselves bored with one another and found someone else. It is a gift that you see things differently. The opportunity is to hold a space for what both of you think and feel and find a way to expand on that. For example, if one of you thinks you work really hard and need a day to sleep in, and the other thinks that weekends needs to be focused on family time and maximizing your time together, how can you hold a space for both of these options? Maybe one of you plays with the kids on Saturdays while your spouse sleeps in until 10 a.m. and on Sundays you switch spots and then the other sleeps in on Sunday. And then from 10 a.m. and beyond, it's family time. By holding a space for each idea, you can come up with a beautiful option to meet and honor both spouses' desires. You aren't meant to think and feel the same thing. You're meant to think differently so that you can bring your ideas together and create something far greater than either of you would have come up with on your own, or if you'd both stuck to one of your ideas. As you think about the 5 biggest mistakes newlyweds make, which one feels most important for you to work through with your fiance and spouse? If you found this lesson helpful, would you give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss an episode? Hey, hon.
Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest mistake we made as newlyweds?
Making time for each other. And a lot of that was around our work schedules. We're very drastically different.
Yeah. So you worked first shift and I worked
Second
shift.